Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Nightreign talk. Today of course we're talking about Deep of Night, which is coming up on Thursday, September 11th. That's when it releases. From there, little information they put out about this. They tell us that Deep of Night is a new high difficulty challenge mode. The purpose of it is for seasoned players who have navigated the night many times to engage with something a bit harder. Enemies that appear are stronger than usual, and you can't specify the target Night Lord. Ongoing terrain changes are not reflected. Special items do exist though, such as the new Death Relics exclusive for this mode, meaning you can only use these new relics if you're doing Deep of Night. There will be weapons with multiple additional but also detrimental effects appearing on them too. Further, the difficulty increases the deeper you descend. The ratings will fluctuate based on wins and losses, affecting the depth. Finally, they tell us that Deep of Night is a high difficulty mode that's meant to provide a thrilling but a challenging adventure. We encourage you to try and see if you can surpass Depth 3. Depths 4 to 5 will feature an endless battle for those seeking even greater thrills. All of that tells us some vague concepts, but not any actual real details. Thanks to the data mining, we know details of those new relics, some details of the new weapons, some details of the negatives, which are mainly the new stuff. So I'll recap that all very quickly for you in this video, but before I do that, I just want to talk about kind of expectations and thoughts on this mode. You need to think about this as a challenge made for people that have played the game endlessly and kind of want to play more, but there isn't something to do. Everdarks don't really hit in regards to the first 30 minutes anymore. Personally, and I think a lot of people will agree with this, I find day 1 and day 2 very repetitive. The game has been mined to death. We understand the maximum routes. I find myself doing nigh on the same thing pretty much every run now, with the interesting part being the Everdark Night Lord. My opinion of Nightreign is that this game provided way more enjoyment and length of play as well than I ever expected. So I have a lot of positives to say about Nightreign, but reasonably I think I'm kind of finished with the game until they put in something new, some real content. Is this that? Yes and no, depending on your perspective, depending on what you feel when you hear extremely hard difficulty. We know that each depth is going to increase the damage and health the enemies are dealing across the board. We know there's going to be special enemies, referred to for the moment as these red mutants, which also deal way more damage and have way more health. And likely are the targets that drop the red gear, the gear that has 2 positive passives on that slot, but 1 new negative. The potential of this concept then, through relics and through drops, is that by the time you reach depth 2 or 3, you're going to have such unbelievably potent stacks of positive affixes, the ones that do stack, that greatly improves your DPS to be able to functionally contend with the unbelievably bigger health bars of the enemies, which fully ignores the dangers of the damage they can deal. I'm thinking that on day 1, even day 2, in general depth 1, you might simply not have enough positive affixes to deal enough DPS to kill the mutant versions of enemies that you might find. This will then change the pathing and route that you take on that day. You might have a plan where you're going to go, boom, we land here, we do this camp, we get level 2 or 3 here, we do 1 jail there, we go through the mine, which brings us to the next jail. We've got purple weapons at that point, we've got 2 jails done, let's consider the next path, whatever it is. But when you get to that Ever jail, suddenly the enemy inside is mutated and you cannot physically kill this guy. Or maybe you can, but it takes so long that it's not worth it. Maybe you go to the mine to get your purple drop and get a purple weapon, only to find that the mine boss is mutated, forcing you to adapt on the fly. Not to mention the heavy amount of RNG in the drops themselves, whether you can get, stacking passives, because many don't, that works for a functional build. Like you've got one person on your team that has such incredible successive attack build up and maybe damage negation from all the passives they have, that they're a monster for that specific style of gameplay. You're going to need that extreme output from these stacking passives to function in this mode, at least in theory. So temper your expectations on what this actually is. Prepare to adapt and prepare to have day 1 and 2 actually be some of the hardest parts of the gameplay potentially. Our long-term goal is to beat depth 3, as they say, see if you can surpass it, because depths 4 and 5 sounds like a purely optional thing, an endless battle. which based on the numbers that we've seen from the Datamined might even be like nigh on impossible. Like maybe in depth 5 you're being one shot by basically everything. We're gonna have to see how it actually turns out, because again, they haven't really given us real information yet. So what do we know? Let's run through that real quick, just in recap. This information comes from data mining from what's in the game right now as they prepare to release the mode. Please don't take it all completely 100% seriously, but it does give us an idea of what to expect. So, you're going to have increasing difficulty as you progress run after run. That increasing difficulty comes in the form of increased damage and health of enemies. On top of that, it's going to be harder to successfully stagger targets, bosses specifically. You will not be able to choose the Night Lord, it will be random, and so you'll have to, every depth, make a new plan for what kind of damage type you need, what is it weak to. So on one side of things, everything's going to get harder in terms of damage and health each depth you go down, but on the other side, you are going to encounter mutant or red enemies. Allegedly, these are going to deal twice as much damage as a non-mutated version of that enemy, as well as double the health pool. This stacks with the concept of what depth you're on, so a mutated enemy on depth 3 is going to be way scarier than a mutated enemy on depth 1, but either way, a mutated enemy is going to be a lot scarier than most of the things. It does seem like Night Lords cannot mutate, nor bosses. Why is it you would ever want to fight a mutated enemy if they're so scary then? Well, they seem to be the source of the new red rarity drops. The drops that provide you with, say, a weapon slot that has 2 positive passives and 1 negative. Examples we've seen from Datamined images are, say, the staff with improved magic negation and improved incantation passives, but then impaired physical damage negation on that 1 negative slot. There's this great axe, you got HP and attacks, as well as taking damage, boost damage negation, but then the negative passive was a new one. Increased damage while you're in the blue zone. This does not properly represent all of the new passives. Hopefully there are new positive passives, and hopefully there are a lot of new negative ones too. But again, in regards to night bosses and the Night Lord, it doesn't seem like they'll be mutating. The depth level that you're on will be increasing their difficulty. So like I've been saying, it could end up being the case that on depth 1, whether you're on day or night 1 of depth 1, you just avoid mutant bosses or enemies in general, because they're not worth the time. This is something we're going to have to test and find out. Maybe it won't be until depth 2 and beyond, when you've got stacked crazy DPS potential, that now you can challenge them. On the topic of rating, as they've referenced, there's some sort of ranking system potentially affecting matchmaking, so the higher rank you are, the more likely you to be queued up with other high rank players. Some sort of skill-based matchmaking system, which definitely doesn't exist in the game right now. From the numbers that we've seen, the ranks seem to go up to 5, like the depth, and it looks like it's going to be pretty easy to get out of the initial rank, but it gets harder as you go. Lastly to mention then will be the new relics. Again, these are only equipable in the new mode and have their pros and cons too. One big aspect of this is how you can have 3 normal slots and then 3 new relic slots. 6 relics equipped compared to your normal 3, that's a big deal. In this example, we see familiar passives, but the negative here is a continuous health loss. This doesn't give us a lot of information at all. Are there completely new pro passives on relics that we can stack up? What we do know is that one new relic passive type is going to exist for each of the Nightfarers. It's the idea of changing your Nightfarer's preferred weapon type. This will affect what drops when you kill bosses, because if you don't realize, when you kill a boss on Wilder, it's more likely to give you a greatsword than not. It's like a % chance to give you that because you're Wilder and he likes greatswords. So with one of these new relics, you could change your preferred weapon to something different. So when you kill a boss, there's a % chance that you get a preferred weapon drop, and with this relic changing it to, say, colossal swords, it might give you one. But it also means you won't be offered great swords in that spot as normal. Here's an example of why that excites me. You could be Executor and have a preference for curved swords. This way you actually get to power stance curved swords, which is incredibly rare in the game right now. And if both of them had seppuku or some sort of status leaning concept, you could do unbelievable jump attack spam for insane DPS with Executor with that idea, leading to your ability to actually take on mutants. Just a concept there. Anyway, the other new relic type of thing we've seen is stat modifiers. So a pro and a con concept for changing main stats. An example we've heard of is where you gain a big amount of mind but lose a big amount of vigor. Each Nightfarer seems to have 2 choices that tie into the concept. So for, say, Wilder, the idea of losing vigor but gaining mind leans into a build around spamming Ash of War more effectively because you're going to have more FP to work with. But what will these actually turn out to be? I want the official information. I don't want to look at Datamined stuff, which could be wrong. Overall then, I think the response to this mode is going to be interesting. Are people going to dive in and go, oh, this is just the same game, but so much harder? I'm not interested in this. I'm waiting for the DLC. I want new content. It's fair to say from the last video I talked about this topic and DLC in general, people are tired of doing the same thing. They want a new map. They want the new Nightfarers. They really want new bosses. And this new mode isn't that, of course. To me, this mode is for the people that just love this game and want an excuse to keep playing. And the normal game that they've been playing, they've got so good at it that it's kind of not as engaging anymore, especially day 1 and 2. So this new mode, yeah, it's going to make day 1 and day 2 a lot harder, especially as you get to depth 2 and 3 and beyond. How will the player base receive this? Will a lot of people try it and then, a chunk of people just go, this is not for them? Whereas the, try-hard challenge runners, they're thrilled by it. Will it be a big success that is exactly what the game needs right now? We need something, and this is at least something. And the fact that it's coming before the DLC is a big shock to me. Like, to be fair, they've been really good to us with free updated content in the form of Everdax and now this mode, all before a DLC you have to pay for. Let me know what you guys think. We'll be covering it as it drops again on September 11th. Until then, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.